A family moves into a secluded old house nestled in a remote location in the woods. Parents Mark and Maria decide to set up a new life with their two children, teenager Regina and younger brother Paul. The house is big, cold, and gives them strange thoughts from the very first glance. It seems that its walls hide some secrets, and the air is saturated with something inexplicable and sinister. Regina, as the eldest sister, is the most worried about the move. She feels anxious from the very beginning, which only intensifies as strange things begin to happen. Constant light fluctuations and electrical problems that find no explanation only inflame the atmosphere in the house. Mark, her father, tries to calm the family down by saying that it's just old wiring that needs repair. However, Regina realizes that it's not just technical problems. Events begin to unfold rapidly after the lights suddenly go out in the house one evening, plunging everything into pitch blackness. All members of the family find themselves forced to move in the dark, which only adds to their fear. At one point, Regina begins to feel that someone is watching her, but there is no one around. Her father and mother continue to ignore her fears, writing it all off as nervous tension associated with the move. One night, when everyone is asleep, Regina is awakened by a strange sound coming from the basement. She goes down there and sees that something has clearly been there recently. The walls of the basement seem to whisper some strange phrases to her that she can't make out, but feels that it is clearly connected to something dark and scary. Regina decides not to tell anyone about it, though the fears within her grow. Meanwhile, Mark and Maria continue to live at their own pace, absorbed in setting up the house and taking care of the children. They begin to quarrel more and more often, and for no apparent reason. A darkness, as if physically present in the house, begins to eat away at their relationship, but neither of them realizes it. It soon becomes apparent that the house is affecting their psyche. Mark becomes irritable and detached, Mary depressed and tense. They sense that something is going wrong, but cannot put it into words. Paul's youngest son also begins to notice oddities. One evening, he sees a shadow on the wall that moves on its own without any source. The shadow seems alive, and Paul is sure there is more behind it than just a play of light. He tries to tell Regina, but she, though concerned, doesn't want to scare her little brother any further. However, she herself begins to sense that the darkness in this house is far greater than they thought. The situation becomes critical when one night Regina finds her brother standing in front of a mirror in total darkness. Paul tells her that he was talking to someone on the other side of the mirror. Regina realizes that this is not just a child's imagination play, that something scary and unexplainable is really going on in the house. She decides to start searching for information about the house's past. While researching the history of the house, Regina discovers that people have disappeared in the house many years ago. She finds articles about strange disappearances that have never been explained. She tries to tell her parents about it, but they still don't take her seriously. One evening, as the family gathers for dinner, the lights go out in the house again, and suddenly there is a strong feeling of the presence of something evil and cold. Mark leaves the house to check the electricity but does not return. Maria begins to panic, trying to call him, but there is no connection. Regina realizes that something urgent must be done. She takes Paul's hand and tries to find a way out, but the doors seem to be locked and the windows are blocked. They find themselves prisoners in their own home. At this time, Mary also encounters something unexplainable. In the darkness, she sees a figure that is slowly moving towards her. Terrified, she runs to the children, but there is no turning back. Meanwhile, Regina finds another room in the house that no one knew about. This room is empty, but the walls are covered with strange symbols. She realizes that this room was the center of all the evil going on. Regina recalls that the article she found talked about some kind of ritual that was performed in this house and that spirits were trapped in the walls. She realizes that the darkness in the house is the result of events that happened decades ago. Regina tries to find a way to stop what is happening. She realizes that she needs to restore the order of things, to break the connection between the house and the forces that inhabit it. In the darkness, she searches for clues and discovers an old diary belonging to one of the house's previous occupants. The diary details a ritual that was supposed to seal the darkness, but something went wrong and the evil remained. It also points out how to finish what was started with light. Regina realizes that she needs to find a way to bring light back into the house, but it's not so easy when the darkness literally lives inside the walls. She runs down the hallways trying to gather some light from the candles to illuminate the room, but they flicker out the second she lights them. Suddenly Paul disappears, and she hears his voice coming from that very mysterious room. Regina rushes there and sees Paul standing in the center of the room, surrounded by shadows. They almost engulf him, but Regina rushes forward, trying to pull him out of this trap. The darkness attacks her, and she feels the coldness seep into every cell of her body, paralyzing her with fear. But without giving up, she remembers that the key to salvation is light. In desperation, she breaks the nearest window, letting daylight into the room. The darkness begins to slowly recede, releasing Paul from its clutches. Regina clutches her brother in her arms and sees the shadows disappear into the corner of the room. But she realizes that this is a temporary victory. The darkness is not yet completely gone. The light must remain in the house or the evil will return. She takes Paul and runs to her mother, who, as it turns out, has also fallen under the influence of the darkness. Mary is almost unconscious, her gaze blank and lifeless, as if something has consumed her soul. Regina, fighting the remnants of the darkness that is still trying to grip them, leads her mother and brother outside, into the sunlight. As they step into the light, the house behind them begins to slowly crumble. The shadows that lurked within it can no longer exist without the darkness, and the house seems to crumble under the weight of its own history. The family stands on the doorstep, watching their new home turn into a pile of rubble. But there is still a sense of unease inside them, as if something has not been finished all the way through. Mark returns, but his face has changed. He remains silent without saying a word and only stares at the house that was once their new beginning. Regina realizes that they have experienced something that has left a mark on them forever, and that mark will never go away.